Welcome to the Gaming Bench. Today I'm going to make a Victorian-era game called Halma. It's a pretty simple 2 or 4 player strategy/race game. But the best part is it's played on an absolutely humongous 16 by 16 space board. Pretty excited to build it. Let's get to it. The Halma boards I've seen are usually a checkered board, light and dark squares. They don't need to be. The colors don't mean anything. They don't affect gameplay, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it a checkered board. Also, the boards I've seen have a partition or a dividing line in each corner where the players set up, showing where to set up for 13 if you're playing 4 players or 19 pieces if you're playing with 2 players. I don't like that dividing line. I think it's kind of ugly, so I'm going to do something different. I'm going to make those different heights. I'm going to make my board out of maple and walnut. So I already have all the pieces cut to the width of the squares. So this is 3/4 inch, this is 1/2 inch, and this is 1/4 inch. And those will be the different step downs between the levels, indicating where to place your pieces. Also, I'm going to use cherry as a dividing line between all the squares because I think that'll look nice. All right, time to make a whole bunch of squares. I threw together a jig to help me cut all these squares to the exact same length. I have a crosscut sled that I'd usually use for something like this, but I did a bunch of test cuts and found out that it's just slightly off, like 1/32 of an inch, which usually isn't a problem for most things I build, but since there's 16 spaces across, 16 pieces, 1/32 of an inch times 16, that's almost 1/2 an inch. So that would be very noticeable. So I built this, tried to make it as precise as I can. Precision really isn't my thing, but I think it's pretty close. So let's see what we got. Okay, that took longer than anticipated, mostly because I miscalculated the yield of the 1/4 inch pieces. I really need to start doing a better job of planning out these projects, but I had to stop everything I was doing and get a couple boards of both the maple and the walnut, cut them to size, plane them down to the right thickness before I cut them again. And I know I'm just introducing air into the board, so hopefully it's not too bad, but that's a future Craig problem. So I have a ton of these 1/4 inch pieces, which will form the spaces of the bulk of the board. I have a bunch of these 3/4 inch pieces that will form the 13 space camps in each corner of the board, and a handful of these pieces, 1/2 inch pieces, that are the transition between the 2 steps. Now, before I do anything else, I need to cut a bunch of strips of cherry that I'm going to use as dividers between all these pieces. I also built this kind of janky jig for ripping the cherry strips in between. So if I've done this right, I should be able to just move the fence to the guide, run it through, and get about 1/8 of an inch strip. Like the pieces, these strips are going to have to be 3 different widths. Let's see if this works. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Looks like I'm getting a little variation in the thickness, but hopefully not enough that you'll be able to notice. All right, now to cut a ton more of these. I'm going to mount the board on this sheet of MDF just to give it a little more rigidity. And I know that this is not the most efficient way to build this board. Like, the most efficient way would be how I built my Prue board in my previous video, where you have alternating colors of staves, glue them together, cut them, rotate them, and then you have a checkerboard. But for this, since there's different heights of pieces, I wasn't quite sure how to make that work. So that's what I'm doing. Individual pieces glued one by one onto this board. And just for fun, let's put these out and see what this is going to look like. Okay, so this is roughly what the board will look like. It'll have the camps, it'll have the camp in the corner, and this is 8 by 8. In other words, the size of a traditional chessboard, but this is just a quarter of what the finished game will look like. So it's going to be just gigantic. And this isn't even as big as it's going to be because I don't have the cherry dividers in there, so it's going to be even a little bit bigger. I can't wait to see how monstrous this thing is when it's all done. So I have all the pieces cut out, but they all need light sanding because there's some fuzzy edges on some of the pieces, and especially on the cherry strips, there's some tool marks that I need to get out of. So there's like 250 some pieces. So this is gonna take a while.
One hour later.
Okay, that is all the pieces sanded. And now I need to do the same thing with all the cherry strips. Okay, that is all the pieces rough sanded. I'm still going to have to do a lot of sanding once this is all together, but now they're in a form where I can start putting it together. And this is going to be the most exciting part. I bought a 2x4 foot sheet of MDF, and it's not wide enough. So I had to splice together it into a bigger sheet. And as soon as that dries, I'm going to start laying these squares. I have the sheet of MDF cut to size, and I've dry fit the first 2 rows of all the pieces. And I got to say, I vastly underestimated how fiddly this thing is. All the little divider pieces of cherry that need to be cut to size, it's taken me like an hour of fooling around to get just these 2 rows done. So I'm hoping that Once I get a system in place, it'll go faster. Otherwise, this is gonna just take forever. All right, let's start gluing stuff down. Where to start? Good start. Okay, that is the first 2 rows all glued in. So I was really stressed about how to get good clamping pressure on this thing. So here's the solution I came up with. I cut a couple different spacers of different thicknesses so that when they're in place, it makes everything the same height. So first, I'll clamp this into place to make sure I have good pressure this way. And then clamp this over top to make sure that I have good downward pressure. Barring disaster, I think this will work. I'll put a little more weight here for good measure. All right, rows 3 and 4, dry fit, and it did go a little faster. So maybe there's hope of this not taking all my adult life to get done, but we'll see. It is a brand new day. I was up till 1:30 last night laying these spaces. I really wanted to finish 2 more rows to say that I had finished half of the board, but I had to go to bed. For the record, as I'm recording this, it's Tuesday morning. I like to post on Thursdays. My optimism about getting this done in time for Thursday is seriously starting to wane, but we'll see what happens. So here it is, all laid out. And as predicted, this thing is absolutely colossal. I love how big it is. It's pretty rough right now. There's a lot of glue, squeeze out. These dividers are uneven. It's going to take a ton of sanding to get this thing to where I want it. And even though it looks pretty rough right now, I already love it. So I'm going to start sanding, but I'm going to cut off the video here because it's already getting kind of long and I still have to finish this and make the pieces. So I'll do a part 2 where I finish this up. Hope you've enjoyed it this far, and I'll see you next time on The Gaming Bench.